Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 8 waiver wire ads for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 10 waiver wire ads of the week, as well as explaining why I believe you guys should be picking up these players off of the waiver wire right now. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 8 waiver wire ads. We begin at number 1 with the headliner, Eljah Mitchell, running back of the San Francisco 49ers this week, going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. This is going to be a cupcake matchup for the San Francisco 49ers offense as a whole. Eljah Mitchell should dominate the Chicago Bears defense, as Uncle Lenny did the week before for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs basically got pulverized by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. Mitchell is still available in tons of leagues at this point. It is entirely possible that in your league, he is picked up, but in some smaller leagues, maybe if you're in a 10-team league or an 8-team league, it is entirely possible that Eljah Mitchell is available, and not a lot of people are completely sold in to Eljah Mitchell, at least until this week, so there is a pretty solid chance that he may still be available on your waiver wire. In week number 7, up against the Indianapolis Colts, he had 18 rushes for 107 yards and 1 touchdown. If you look to the other side of the ball, Jonathan Taylor had the exact same rushing stats, 18 attempts for 107 yards and 1 touchdown, which is about as weird as it gets. But at the end of the day, that is a very solid game for Eljah Mitchell, even if as a team, the San Francisco 49ers offense looked a little bit limp. They didn't look amazing, but we still saw Eljah Mitchell have a solid game. So I believe that Eljah Mitchell is the clear number 1 running back for the San Francisco 49ers, and I believe that he is a must-add running back right now. We're not going to go super in-depth into Eljah Mitchell because, again, in some leagues he is going to be available. In a lot of leagues he will not be available, but he is a guy that I felt like I had to mention due to the fact that he wasn't picked up in every single league. Next up, we got Kenneth Gainwell, running back of the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Miles Sanders is reported to miss at least 2 or 3 games of the season, and it appears that Nick Sirianni actually wants to run the ball. We were all waiting all season for the Philadelphia Eagles to commit to running the football, and once they do, finally, everyone is cheering. You can see everyone so ecstatic. Everyone that has Miles Sanders thinking, hoorah, they're finally going to actually run the fucking football. We're going to actually get some juice, some value out of Miles Sanders. And then the guy gets hurt. And that's terrible, obviously. I hope that Miles Sanders is okay, and I hope he is able to return as soon as possible. But this opens up a huge door for Kenneth Gainwell, as well as Boston Scott, who we're going to be talking about a little bit later. And it appears right now to me that Kenneth Gainwell is the main back to own for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they're not going to fully commit to Kenneth Gainwell in the same way they never really fully committed to Miles Sanders. This is going to be a running back by committee, but my belief is that Kenneth Gainwell will be the lead dog in this committee system. In week number 7, up against the Las Vegas Raiders, Kenneth Gainwell had 5 rushes for 20 yards, as well as 4 receptions on 8 targets for 41 yards and a touchdown. So I do believe that Kenneth Gainwell will be the lead back on the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he will be having some solid games until Miles Sanders ends up returning. And even with Miles Sanders back, if this team is fully committing to the run, then we could see Kenneth Gainwell be a very viable back, even with Miles Sanders returning to the team in the next couple of weeks. Next up, we got another running back at number 3, Brandon Bolden, running back of the New England Patriots, going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. This week, I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, but Kenneth Gainwell is going up against the soft-serve Detroit Lions defense this week. So when it comes to Brandon Bolden, it just appears that Ramondre Stevenson is just going to be a healthy scratch when Damian Harris is healthy, and if Damian Harris continues to have some solid health, then we could be seeing Brandon Bolden being heavily used week in and week out. Now, Brandon Bolden is really only an add if you're in a half PPR or a full PPR league, because all of his value comes in the receiving game. The guy had 2 rushes last week up against the New York Jets, and that turned into 0 yards, but he had 6 receptions on 7 targets for 79 yards and a touchdown in that matchup up against the Jets. Now, I do understand, hey, Nick, Brandon Bolden played good up against the Jets. Does that really tell us that he is going to be a great running back week in and week out? Probably, in my opinion, because he will be getting used in the receiving game. Again, as long as Rhamondre Stevenson ends up continuing to be healthy scratch, because Bill Belichick just doesn't like rookie running backs. Next up, we move to the wide receiver category. Rashod Bateman, wide receiver of the Baltimore Ravens. This week, the Baltimore Ravens are on bye, so Rashod Bateman isn't playing up against anyone. So if you need a wide receiver bye week fill-in, do not pick up Rashod Bateman because he's not going to be playing. Rashod Bateman is the clear number 2 wideout on the team behind Mr. Hollywood Brown. In week number 7 against the Bengals, we saw him build upon what he did in week number 6, which was the first game of his NFL career. In week number 7, he had 3 receptions on 6 targets for 80 yards, and again, I do believe that he's going to continue to be the clear number 2 wide receiver on the team. Now, will he always be able to potentially out-target a guy like Mark Andrews? Probably not, right? You would think of him more as the third option on the team, but that is still very valuable on an offense like the Baltimore Ravens. And if Rashod Bateman is going to be seeing some rushes like I could see entirely possible for Rashod Bateman, then the upside there is very solid week in and week out. Again, don't play Rashod Bateman this week because he's on a bye, but for the future, I believe Rashod Bateman is going to be a very solid wide receiver that you guys can start week in and week out. But before we hear about the next player to be adding, I would like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you guys some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you guys 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum to qualify. You need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link down below, deposit and play. That is it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out to you via email with your coupon. If you would like immediate access, please email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up immediately. You can also claim a free $10 below, which can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $100,000 Thursday Night Football Baller. Make sure you guys use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give you guys your best shot at winning big. Again, make sure you guys check out Yahoo, link down below in the description. Next player to discuss is Russell Gage, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, going up against the Carolina Panthers this week. So technically, if you need a streaming option at the wide receiver position, Russell Gage would be the best guy to go ahead and pick up right now. While Gage was a complete and utter unmitigated fucking disaster, this guy was atrocious. Early on in the season, the first 2 games he ended up playing, he was terrible before he ended up getting hurt, but magically, he just appears up against the Miami Dolphins and plays great. Now, it's a very similar situation to Rashod Bateman, where I'm not too sure week in and week out if Rashod Bateman's going to be getting more targets than Mark Andrews. We saw last week the Atlanta Falcons implore a heavy dosage of Kyle Pitts. Now, why is that? It's probably because the Miami Dolphins defense is dumb and they don't understand that, hey, maybe we shouldn't put this terrible linebacker on Kyle Pitts. We shouldn't run this zone defense because Kyle Pitts is going to find that soft spot and pound the defense all night long. The Dolphins couldn't figure that out. I could at home yelling at the screen as a Dolphins fan. I was quite angry, but it is what it is because Russell Gage does appear to be the number 2 wideout on the team behind Calvin Ridley, and hopefully the season continues on this nice solid path and does not end up detracting and going back to what it was like for Russell Gage at the beginning of the season. In week number 7 up against the Miami Dolphins, Russell Gage saw 6 targets for 4 receptions, 67 yards, as well as a touchdown in that game. I expect Russell Gage to be relatively useful week in and week out, especially on such a pass-heavy offense. The value is certainly there for Russell Gage. Next up, we pivot to Darius Slayton, wide receiver of the New York Football Giants, going up against the garbage Kansas City Chiefs defense in Kansas City. Is Patrick Mahomes washed up? People are asking. Seriously, he's not actually. You know, I'm kind of making a joke, but he just isn't looking good recently. He got banged up in that game. The defense is just Swiss cheese. There's holes everywhere. It's bad. Darius Slayton isn't very good, but there are just so many injuries on the New York Football Giants with Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard. We might be entering week number 8. Week number 8, which is crazy already. It feels like the season has just went super fast. In week number 8, they may be without all of those guys. And that's going to open the door for Darius Slayton to be the number 1 guy, the number 1 pass catcher on the team. In week number 7, up against the Panthers in a game that the Panthers probably should have won, the Panthers get bent over. Darius Slayton has a solid game, 5 receptions on 9 targets for 63 yards. He's one of those receivers that are kind of game breakers, in my opinion, because of how fast he is. All he needs is like 3 receptions, and this motherfucker might have 120 yards and 2 touchdowns at the end of the game. I like Darius Slayton. Not that I like him. I actually love Darius Slayton this week up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Next player here, we got Boston Scott, running back of the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the Detroit Lions. While, like I said earlier on in the video, I believe in Kenneth Gainwell, and I believe he will be the main back in this committee system, but they still don't use that workhorse role, so Boston Scott will still be involved. He'll still be getting touches, and he has that potential to get into the end zone. And up against the Detroit Lions, you would have to think that there's a pretty solid chance that could end up happening. In week number 7, up against the Las Vegas Raiders, he had 7 rushes for 24 yards and a tug in that game, as well as 1 reception on 2 targets for 5 yards. Very evident that Kenneth Gainwell will be the leader in receptions on the team out of the backfield, but Boston Scott may see more rushing opportunities as the season goes on, especially with Miles Sanders banged up potentially 2, 3, or potentially even more games at this point. So I like Boston Scott this week up against the Detroit Lions. Obviously, I do prefer Kenneth Gainwell because of the receiving upside game in and game out, but I do still think that Boston Scott is a very serviceable running back that you can add off of the waiver wire right now. Next up, we got another running back in Samaje Perine, running back of the Bengals, going up against the New York Football Jets, the Jumbo Jets, actually, not the Football Jets. They're the New York Football Giants. We got the New York Jumbo Jets in MetLife. Even with Joe Mixon getting the ball a lot, we're still seeing Perine week in and week out. Week number 5 up against the Packers, this man had 11 rushes for 59 yards with 4 receptions on 5 targets for 24 yards and a touchdown. In week number 7 up against the Baltimore Ravens in a shocking result. I don't think anyone saw the Bengals just running down the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think anyone saw that coming. The Bengals in that game looked chef's kiss, magnifique in that matchup. Week number 7 up against the Baltimore Ravens, 11 rushes for 52 yards and a touchdown, 1 reception on 1 target for 23 yards. Seems like Samaje Perine has got a nose for that end zone. Seems as though he's still going to get used even with Joe Mixon seeing a decent amount of usage week in and week out. I'm still fine picking up Samaje Perine. Next up, we got the only tight end in today's video, Ricky Seals-Jones, tight end of the Washington football team, going up against the Denver Broncos this week in Mile High. 2 solid weeks in a row for Mr. Ricky Seals-Jones. Without Logan Thomas, you can continue to rely on Ricky Seals-Jones week in and week out. Week number 6 up against the Kansas City Chiefs, Ricky Seals-Jones had 4 receptions on 6 targets for 58 yards and a touchdown. Last week up against the Packers, he didn't find his way into the end zone, but he did have 6 receptions on 7 targets for 51 yards. So I believe we are going to continue to see maybe 5, 6, 7 targets for Mr. Ricky Seals-Jones game in and game out, and that should be enough for Ricky Seals-Jones to have a solid game. And the Washington football team doesn't look to be all that good, so it seems like they're to be crawling their way back on into the game, and that could lead to a garbage time touchdown for Mr. Ricky Seals-Jones. Final player here is Rashod Penny, running back of the Seattle Seahawks, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week at home in Seattle. He's playing tonight on Monday Night Football, so we've yet to see him play. Hopefully he doesn't get injured again. Knock on wood. He's returning from injury. Chris Carson still a little ways away from coming back. Maybe Rashod Penny elevates himself past Mr. Alex Collins, and then in that case, Rashod Penny is a startable running back next week up against the Jaguars, but you got to monitor that based upon tonight's games. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, make sure to leave a like on today's video as well. It would help us out a ton. I love you guys all so much. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. Make sure you guys check out Yahoo. The links are all down below in the description. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day, and as always, goodbye.